I've had plastic surgery. Do I think plastic surgery is feminist? No, but I still made the decision to get it. Not every decision in my life is going to be based in, is this feminist or not?
I can hear the manosphere creators and the pick-me saying, oh, well, she's so selfish. Women are so selfish these days. What's selfish about wanting to focus on yourself when no one else is affected?
Welcome to Manosphere Highlights Daily. Today, we're going to look at a concept that once you see it, becomes very difficult to unsee. It changes how you hear certain conversations, not just online, in real life, at work, on dates, in relationships. Now, if you've spent any time in this space, you've probably heard the term Schrödinger's feminist before. We didn't invent the term. We don't even know who did, but it's one of those phrases that stuck around because it describes a pattern people kept noticing. For anyone who does not know Schrödinger's cat, it is a physics thought experiment where a cat in a box is simultaneously alive and dead until you open the box and observe it. The state changes depending on when you look. The Schrödinger's feminist operates the same way. Feminist principles are simultaneously valid and invalid, depending on which direction the argument needs to travel at that specific moment. When feminist theory explains an outcome she does not like, it is a powerful structural framework revealing deep truth. When that same feminist theory creates a contradiction in her own choices or conclusions, it suddenly becomes optional, individual, contextual.
I'm not the best feminist on earth. I don't want to be in that race. Don't give me that medal. I'm not in that competition. I am not the best feminist on earth.
Nobody is a perfect feminist. The box is always both open and closed. Now let's see what this looks like in practice, starting with a personal example. Ain't that a man?
MJ is what you would call a sprinkle girl or a man-hater or a self-proclaimed misandrist. She makes a lot of content in this kind of like sphere. So marriage.
You want to know how I really feel? Don't get mad. You're gonna get mad. You want to know how I really feel? I feel like you shouldn't get married. And I know I've already said this, but whenever I go to give advice on all these horror stories that I see, whether it be with like Hailey Bieber or other people, or that trend that's going around right now where it's like, oh, but there used to be a time. I really wish women would stop getting married. And there's always a conversation that's being had around like SW and how like SW sets women back and how it feeds into the patriarchy. And just because a woman chooses to participate in it doesn't mean that it's not still harmful and doesn't mean that it's empowering. And that's a whole nother conversation. But if we're going to say that about SW, I think this is my little opinion. That's probably going to make you mad, but I feel like the same can be said for marriage. Marriage is an antiquated idea that I believe oppresses women and unrefutably has a history and an origination in the oppression of women.
MJ Gray, 400,000 followers, years of content built around one consistent worldview. Marriage is oppressive. Men are not worth your investment. Protect yourself. That was the product. That was what 400,000 people subscribed to. And then she announced her engagement. Now, here is the clip that makes this the perfect case study.
Let's have a look at her engagement announcement, and then we will look at some of the internet's reactions.
Yes, I am engaged. Yes, I am the same person who made several videos saying that I never had any plans to get married, I did not want to get married, and I did not agree with the institution of marriage. Gag is, I still don't agree with the institution of marriage, but in those videos, I made caveats. Under certain circumstances, like if you plan on having children, if you plan on living together, if you plan on buying property together, those are the situations where marriage does make sense.
She is engaged and she still does not agree with marriage. Simultaneously, the box is open and closed. Now watch the host navigate the contradiction.
Let's just pause her there for a sec. So I actually, to be honest, I'm going to be completely honest here. I think I might have given her a little bit too much wiggle room. If I'm being honest, when I'm in the recording that I made earlier, I think I was not necessarily on her side per se, but kind of like, sure, let her do whatever she wants. We should stop taking internet people seriously and she can do whatever she wants. Who cares? Maybe she just met the man of her dreams. So like whatever. However, I missed something. I missed something that I'm just going to call myself out on now. When she made her engagement video, she said, I think that there are certain situations in which it's a good idea for a woman to marry a man. And she said, for example, if you're planning on buying property or if you're having kids together. Isn't that most marriages though? Or like, not every marriage, obviously, blah, 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 whatever, but like most marriages involve some form of property ownership together and sharing children.
She sees it. She calls it mental gymnastics. And then she does the mental gymnastics herself. The framework is preserved. The personal exception is granted. And the 400,000 women who turned down proposals based on MJ's advice, still sitting with that decision. That is the Schrödinger's Feminist at the personal level. Now, let's go to the ideological level, because this pattern does not just operate in individual content creators. It operates as the foundation of an entire worldview.
So Oprah's back, and this time she's interviewing a therapist named Esther Perel, talking about dating and relationships. And she has a room full of mostly women. There are a handful of men, but mostly women. And she fields a few questions directly from some audience members. If you've been following me for a while, you probably know this. Oprah has a history of platforming a lot of problematic people. And since she's entered her billionaire phase, we have really been starting to see the cracks in her image. She's kind of been advocating for relationship and life advice that is inconsistent with women's liberation and a consumerist angle that is impossible for most people's bank accounts. I think that's fair.
Right away, notice the framing. Oprah is platforming problematic people. Esther Perel is part of a consumerist machine. The structural critique is activated before a single clip has been played. That is the box opening in the direction she needs it to go. Now, watch what happens when Ali from the audience asks her genuine question.
Talk about those things without talking about the systems of power that influence them.
And when you have so many bad experiences after bad experiences, it's like riding a bike. It's like you fall off the bike and then you fall off the bike again. You're like, now I don't want to get on the bike. Mm-hmm. You see the bike and you're almost afraid of the bike. You're like, keep it away from me. And my friends have had—
Can I ask? What is bad experience?
Oh, bad experiences.
Yes.
Just guys who I'll meet them, they'll present to be one way at first, and I later find out that they're a completely different version of themselves.
Somebody's going like this right there.
Yes. That's part of it. Or lying about like big aspects of their lives, like careers or past people that they've dated. So I feel like with dating, a lot of women like myself have been disappointed, right? You never want to feel disappointed in something, but a lot of men feel angry. So I guess my question would be, what do men and women really want from each other with dating, and how as a society do we move forward?
Ali is not asking a personal question. She is asking a sociological one. What is happening between men and women collectively? How do we bridge this gap? That is a generous question from someone who has had enough bad experiences to justify being angry, but is still genuinely curious about solutions. Watch what the Feminist creator does with it.
Second thing, notice that she doesn't answer her question. In fact, she changes the question. So when she asks for what is a bad experience, she's saying these men are lying to her. Lying about who he is and what his motives are. That's pretty significant. Men are lying to me, and I'm tired of dealing with dudes that are just liars. And I don't want to spend this energy on pursuing a romantic relationship anymore because it doesn't seem worth it. So she's having this experience. Her peers are having this experience. And she didn't mention this, but there's a lot of data that shows that women in her age cohort are having the same experience. So there's an urge to the people who want women to center romantic relationships again for them to say, oh, well, you're just getting that from social media. You're just getting that online. Oh, that's just your experience. It's one thing when something happens to you once, happens to you twice. It's one thing when a same or similar experience happens to you every time you do a thing. Similar experiences are happening to all of your friends, and similar experiences are happening to millions of women who are similarly situated. At that point, you realize that it's not just you. This isn't about the individual woman. This is about the experience of women as a collective, the dating experience of women as a class.
Women's bad dating experiences are systemic, structural, a collective class experience that demands structural analysis. The box opens in that direction immediately. Watch what happens the moment the conversation turns to men.
She goes on to talk about the phenomenon of AI chatbot girlfriends and everything, but we know that's really like a dude problem. That's not really our problem. They want AI girlfriends because an AI is not a person. It is a machine that will do and be whatever he wants it to be. That's the appeal. The AI chatbot is the way that men wish women could be. Someone who tends to all their needs and shuts the fuck up.
Boom! Men's bad dating experiences are individual pathology. Men want robots that comply and shut the F up. The box slams shut in the opposite direction just as fast as it opened. Same phenomenon. Two completely different analytical frameworks applied purely based on whose experience is being discussed. That is not analysis. That is ideology dressed as analysis. And the difference matters. Now here is where the beef comes in.
But then this therapist turns it around and individualizes it. She makes this restaurant analogy that just because you went to one bad restaurant doesn't mean you're going to stop going to restaurants. And the entire crowd, including Oprah, fawns over this answer like it's the most profound thing they've ever heard in their lives. Online discourse, just discussion, intellectual debate, the bar is so low if they think this is the most profound thing that they've ever heard. This happens like 5 or 6 times. People are like, ooh and ah, like that is the most earth-shattering thing they've ever heard. Please. The food was bad, but that doesn't mean you had indigestion. What? I have a better analogy. Let's say your favorite thing to eat when you go out to a restaurant is, let's say you like steak. No matter what kind of restaurant you go to, you order a steak or some version of a steak. So you're eating beef every single time you go out to eat. If every single time you go to a restaurant, you get sick with E. coli from the beef, the problem isn't you. The problem isn't the restaurant. The problem is the beef. The problem is that the entire supply of beef that's going to every restaurant that you're eating at in your particular region is tainted. The problem is systemic, not individual.
Now hold on. Before we address the analogy, we have to address what she did to get there. Because she just committed the exact crime she accused Esther Perel of committing. Ali did not open with a collective sociological question. Ali opened with herself.
So did something happen?
I feel like, and I can speak to some women who are in Gen Z, I've had so many bad experiences dating.
Her own experience, her own decision to stop dating, her own happiness in that decision. And then she asked the broader question about how society moves forward. Esther heard that and did exactly what a good therapist does. She said explicitly,
But if you allow me, I was going slightly in a different direction because you made a point of saying I'm going to focus on me.
yes. She told Ali what she was doing before she did it. She addressed the personal entry point first. Because how do you understand the collective if you cannot understand yourself? You cannot solve a systemic problem by skipping the individual who's standing right in front of you asking for help. The Feminist creator ignored that entirely. She took Ali's personal story and immediately converted it into ideological ammunition for her systemic argument. Ali became a data point, not a person. And here's the thing. Esther Perel is a psychologist. Of course, she focuses on the individual. That's her freaking job. You want a sociologist? Go read a paper.
What? I have a better analogy.
And then she built a beef analogy to counter an analogy Esther never actually made in that context.
What? I have a better analogy.
So is her beef analogy better than Esther's restaurant line? Analytically, yes. As a systemic argument, it's sharper, but it's not better because it is not addressing the same thing. Esther was talking to Ali. The Feminist creator was talking to her ideology. Those are different conversations. happening in the same room. However, this is where it gets delicious. Yes. The beef analogy is better for us because it exposes her perfectly. And then she says this.
We really need to work on analogies here. We really need to learn how to construct a good analogy because so many people try and fail spectacularly.
This is pure gold. She just called out everyone else for failing at analogies immediately after building the best argument against her own conclusion she has made in the entire video, and totally missed the point of the conversation she was critiquing, because here is what she missed while she was busy congratulating herself.
What? I have a better analogy.
She just proved the choice component exists. The beef supply is tainted. You know it is tainted. You have been getting sick repeatedly and you keep going to the restaurant anyway. That is not a systemic problem anymore. That is a Tuesday. This is the hang the DJ moment.
Like, the system just bounced me from bloke to bloke, like short fling after short fling, and I know that they're short flings, they're just meaningless.
The system set the conditions. Amy made choices inside those conditions every single time. Back to back to back. She kept having casual sex, even though it made her feel detached.
And I know that they're short flings, they're just meaningless, and I get really detached. It's like I'm not really there.
Yeah. You cannot spend 30 minutes building the case that women are empowered autonomous adults, capable of running companies, making medical decisions, shaping culture, and demanding equal everything. And then, in the same breath, argue those same women have zero agency over which restaurant they walk into while the beef makes them sick every single time. Pick one. Empowered, autonomous adult who makes choices and owns them, or structural victim with no agency who cannot be held accountable for anything. The box cannot be both open and closed, even when you have a really good analogy, especially when you have a really good analogy, because the better the analogy, the more clearly it exposes the contradiction you were trying to hide. She built a sharper systemic argument than Esther's personal one, but she built it for the wrong conversation, pointed in the wrong direction, and then told everyone else they were failing spectacularly at analogies. The foolishness. Gentlemen, that is the Schrödinger's Feminist in its purest form. So what is the Schrödinger's Feminist? It is not a woman. It is not feminism itself. It is a pattern. A pattern where the analytical framework changes depending on which conclusion needs to be protected. When women have bad experiences, the explanation becomes structural, cultural, systemic, a reflection of larger forces shaping society. When men have bad experiences, the explanation suddenly becomes personal, individual, a problem of their choices, their attitudes, their failures. The framework expands and contracts depending on who is speaking. The box opens and closes, and once you see it, you start seeing it everywhere. We saw it with MJ Gray. Marriage was oppressive. Marriage was ownership. Marriage was a bad deal for women until she got engaged. Then marriage became different, personal, contextual, an exception. The framework stayed. The conclusion changed. We saw it again with the creator reacting to Esther Perel. Women's frustrations became collective experiences requiring structural analysis. Men's frustrations became evidence of male pathology. Same phenomenon, different framework, same box, different state. And that is why the term Schrödinger's Feminist survives, not because it is an insult, because it describes something people keep observing. The rules are fixed when they support the conclusion. The rules become flexible when they threaten it. Now, to be fair, this is not uniquely feminist. Human beings do this all the time. Political tribes do it. Religious tribes do it. Men do it. Women do it. The difference is that feminism presents itself as a framework for understanding power, incentives, and human behavior. And any framework that explains everyone else eventually has to explain itself. That is where the contradictions become visible. That is where the box gets opened. And once it opens, you cannot help but notice that the cat keeps changing depending on who is looking. Listen to all, follow none. Manosphere, we work it. Protect yourself at all times. This video has officially been highlighted.